Alrighty guys, so it has been forever since I have last actually touched Blender, so this could either go well or it can go bad. I'm going in this pretty raw. Anyways, today I will be showing you guys how I pretty much go about modeling a sword. Fair warning, this video might be long, though I am trying to model a pretty basic sword, so hopefully it shouldn't be too long. Anyways, let's get right into it. We got Blender open. I'm on 3.1, I'm pretty sure. So first things first, you have your cube here. I go and lock myself on the X axis. I delete the cube. And there's two ways to input a reference image. Now me personally, I fully recommend having a reference image because it really helps. It helps you get a general idea of the shape of the sword, the details. It really helps. So there's two ways to import a reference. So first things first, as always, just make sure you're locked on some sort of axis. I usually work from the X, but that's just me though. So the two ways to go about it is you can do Shift A and then go to Image and then Reference, or you can find your image on a file explorer and then you can just drag and drop, and that's what I'm going to do. There we go. So the sword I'm using today is a sword from Skyrim, I believe. I'm going to be modeling the bottom one, even though I'm pretty sure they're both pretty much the same. The bottom just looks a little bit cleaner. So I like to size it up. And I try to line it up as best as I can to the line here on the y-axis. Then I usually move out of the lock and move it back a little bit. And then now I would do Shift A, import a plane, and then I'll rotate it to make it stand straight up at a 90-degree angle. If you don't already know, if you hold Control when you rotate, it will lock it by increments like this. And I recommend doing that instead of the free rotate. So rotate up to 90. Go into edit mode by pressing tab. Make sure you're on vertex select. And I select every vertice except one essentially. And then with this single vertex, we'll go to modifiers, go to mirror, and mirror it on the X, I believe. Yep, you see the one at the bottom there. And then I'll lock myself back on the x-axis and try to make sure that everything, this little orange dot, is centered with our reference here, which it is now. So go back into edit mode with the vertex, and then we're just going to essentially outline the blade of the sword. So what you want to do is put your point wherever you want it. I'm starting from the base right here, and you just do E to extrude, and you just keep doing that to outline. Now, you can use however many vertices you want to use. I try to use less just to optimize the model, essentially. I'm going to put one here because with this little detail right here, I'm going to need faces to connect, and it'll just be easier for me to start doing that now. Place one here, another one up a little bit, and then we're just going to round it off here. And once you get towards a point like this, turn on clipping, and what will that do is whenever you connect it here, it'll stay connected. You can't move it. You can move it out, but you can't move it down any further. It connects like that. It's really useful and helpful. I like it. So there we go. We have a basic outline of the sword there. Now we'll go into more finer details as well as just some other basic stuff. So what I'll do first is I'll drag this down. You always want to try to line up vertices like this. This will help you later down the road once you start connecting faces. So I'm just going to keep dragging this down. I'm going to drag it to right here, and then I'm going to turn off clipping so that I can drag this out to make that right there. Turn clipping back on, and then essentially drag this all the way down. Do the same thing, connect it up like that, and then drag this up. Like I said, make sure you line up the vertices. It'll just help you to do it now rather than later. So connect these up, and then you'll be brought down to here. So with this, I'm going to select this one and I'm going to connect it here. Now make sure you're on the, I don't even know what it's really called, the viewport wireframe shading. That's what that will allow you to select both of these vertices here. Press M and then merge at center. So that what that will do is now this is just a single vertex, however you want to call it. Another thing I'll do right now as well is add another line down the middle, lining up vertices as always. And then once again, select the two of them, merge at center. And then now, there's one more thing I actually want to do. So I've seen more detail of the sword, like I said, the sword's from Skyrim, I'm pretty sure. And the sword is actually pretty flat. It just has a single sharp edge, if you can see that there. So I'm going to make sure I get that detail in. So I will select this vertex and make sure clipping is off so I can drag it out. And I'm going to try to make a outline of the edge of the blade here, like this. I might bring it in a little bit more. So I'm going to drag this up and then turn clipping off, and then just start making an outline. And then here, we're going to need to add a vertex right in this line. The way you do that is Control R for edge loop. And now add a vertex right here on this line. To move it, we double tap G. And we can move it all along this single line here. So we're going to line it up to the other vertex. And then select the two of them. And merge at center. And there we go. It's all connected. I accidentally hit it. Okay, it's all connected. All good. And now I believe we are ready to start adding in our faces. One thing to do real quick is to move these back a little bit. Add some vertices here. Double tap G to drag it along. Add one here. Double tap G, drag it along. The reason I'm doing this is to line it up here with these two vertices to make a face. And let's start adding faces. So we go to edge select. We're going to start with the edge of the blade. You just select two edges like this. And you just press F. When you are doing this, I fully recommend to try to stick with quads. Quads are 4 sides, faces with 4 sides. You can use tris. I personally try to stay away from tris, but there's nothing saying you can't use them, so just try to make sure every face has at most 4 and at least 3. When you get into faces with more sides, you can have like shading issues. There's just a bunch of issues that can go wrong. And so that's why I try to stick with quads and sometimes tris if I really need to. Since we got all of that connected, we're going to go back and connect all of this. And then if we go to solid shading, we should see that we have the shape of the sword pretty much done. So next thing to do is to go back into edit mode, make sure you're on edge select still, and then hold Alt and click on the edge. And this should select the entire edge there. Sometimes it depends on what you're modeling, but sometimes it just won't work. And if it doesn't, then you'll have to try to manually select all the edges, you know. A little bit more work, but it's essentially the same. Anyways, so with that selected, we're going to drag this in. Therefore, we get that edge, you know, that little bit of detail there. You know, the sword's starting to look more like a sword. Next thing I'm going to do is go to face select these faces right here. And I'm going to do I to inset, and then make sure I press B to turn off boundary. Because if you see there, we have a gap in the middle there. And we don't want that gap in the middle. So we're going to turn on boundary. And as you see, it connects it down there. We don't need too big of an inset. but I'll make it big enough just so you can tell that it's insetted. And then with that, we just drag it back. And there we go. We have that so far. You could tweak it however you may like. For example, I might bring this up a little bit more. Might drag this out a little bit. Come down here. Yeah, I'll keep that the same. So we have that. Pretty basic. Another thing you do is to mirror this on the Z. As you can see, it's not fully perfectly lined up. So we go into edit mode, turn off clipping real quick, press A to select everything, and then drag it back, turn clipping back on, and then push it back in until it connects. And there you go. You have a blade all done right there. I'm going to hide it real quick by selecting it and pressing H. We are going to move on to the handguard. So like before, we shift A to add a plane, rotate the plane to make it stand straight up, go into edit mode, select all the vertices except one, delete them, go to modifiers, add a mirror modifier, make sure it's symmetrical like that, nice and good. Lock ourselves on the x-axis, make sure it's all perfectly lined up there. I'm going to drag this down a little bit, and I'm going to select this vertex, and we are just, once again, going to make an outline. Another thing to keep in mind with doing this, you know, nothing has to be perfect, and you don't always have to perfectly follow your references. You can always change things up. You pretty much do whatever. Turn clipping on to connect it there. I'm going to do the bottom here. I said make sure you try to line up vertices like that. Drag this out a little bit. Then yeah, I'll connect it right there. So then with this, let's see, what can we do? I don't think we need to add any more. So actually, let's see. We should be good to do that. I'm not a big fan of doing stuff like that, but this is pretty flat, so it should be fine to do that there. But you know, connect up the faces. Really, all this is just trying to find the best way to connect things up. We're going to make a line there essentially to then connect those up. Actually, here's a better thing we can actually do instead. Let's undo that. Let's turn clipping off to move this up like this. And then turn clipping back on and make that connection right there. So then we should essentially be able to go like that. Yep. And then we are going to make a line right here so that we can then connect that up, and we're gonna have to go ahead and make a line here, big line down there. Make sure we're in wireframe, select both those vertices, go to M and merge at center, and then back to edge select and fill in the faces. And yeah, we have all of that filled up. Let me go back into, or let me unhide the blade, which you could do by going to your, whatever you want to call this, where you can see your stuff. We have the plane here, which is hidden, which we can automatically assume would be our sword, blade. So we turn that on, and with this, we can drag it up a little bit to go above. I'll say about there should be good. And then if you can see, it kind of blends in, and it's kind of hard to really get that perfect blend. So I'm kind of just going to dip it until it goes below like that. And then I'm also going to make these angled in a little bit more like that. So that should kind of give the look that we have here that is there. It won't be perfect, but it should work. Now, the next thing to do is to select all of the edges here, and E to extrude and extrude it back. Let me make sure I flip it on the Z axis, and as you see, it's not all perfectly lined up, so let's try to line it up here. I'm gonna lock myself on the Z so I can see more precisely on the line up here. And then tab into edit mode, A to select everything, turn clipping off, drag it back out to where we wanted it. Right there should be good. Turn clipping back on and select these edges again and make sure they connect. And then as I can see, it kind of went off centered there. That should be good. Now if you can tell, or if you can see, there's like a bevel essentially around. So a way we can do that is, let me recenter that at the bottom as well. So the way we can do that is, a simple way is with the edge in the middle here selected, we can do Alt S. I lied. No, tab back out of edit mode to go back into object mode. Control A and apply scale, and then try to Alt S. No. Okay, we're gonna have to do this manually. So essentially I'm going to hide the blade again real quick actually. I'm going to go back to edit mode, and we are essentially just going to kind of just drag these out as they fit. So as you see, the bevel kind of goes away more when you come down to here. So we want to make sure we have less of a bevel there. We're going to drag this up a little bit. Drag this out. I actually might drag these up as well, just a little bit. And then sort of have it just kind of blend back in like that. So that should give us a nice little sort of beveled look. On the x-axis, where we've already dragged these out, we can tweak them even more to see fit. But if I'm being honest, this seems pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. We'll just leave it as that. Let me unhide the blade. Now, as you can see, it doesn't connect right here. Easy fix is just select those and just drag them in just like that. And now we have a little bit of a handguard and our blade. For the handle, real simple. I'm simply going to just go to mesh, add a cylinder. I typically try to keep it, say, 12 vertices. That should be pretty good. So we rotate it to the side like that, and then we press S to scale and kind of just fit it in there. You know, since this is a simple handle, you know, you just do this real nice and easy. Line it up, make sure it's the same size. And as you can see, we kind of have like a little detailed pommel, I guess to say. Try to think of the best way to go about this. So what I might actually do is E to extrude, S to scale to bring this up, and then E to extrude again, kind of bring it in a little bit. E to extrude, kind of bring it out some. Let me actually make sure I'm kind of lined up here. Bring those down. Oops. Bring that down as well. And then from here, add like a little point there. You do that, and then we can just do merge at center, and it'll make a cone like that. So we have a little bit of like that there. Now for this outer sort of like wings on it, I guess to say, we are going to do what we've been doing, add a plane, the best part of everything. Everything starts with a plane for me. So add a plane, move it in, go back into edit mode, vertex select all the vertices except one, delete them, and then add a mirror modifier. And then we're going to drag this in, make sure it is lined up, and it looks lined up. So just drag these in, And as always, just try to make some sort of outline. I'm going to hide this real quickly. Make some sort of outline so it kind of goes like that. Make sure clipping is on. And then it kind of like, there's a flat edge there. And then it kind of goes in like that. And then I will essentially just have it cut off like that. So then, as always, add in our faces. That should be good. And then the next thing to do is to unhide this. We're going to drag this up, and we kind of just want it to fit how it fits there. So kind of go like that. And then I kind of want to drag this back a little bit. Drag this edge back a little bit. Go into vertex select and select this and bring it back a little bit. Just trying to kind of make it feel like it kind of wraps around it more. Give it that depth. So that should honestly be good. So with that, as always, we'll select all the edges. Not that edge. These edges right here. Flip it on the Z axis. I aligned. Don't select the edges yet. We're going to center this. Go lock it on the Y axis and make sure I have it nice and centered. And then go tab back into edit mode. Select everything. Make sure clipping is off. Drag it out. Make sure to line it back up how we had it, where it was just nicely snug wrapped around. You bring it back a little bit. And then turn clipping on. Select all the outer edges here. And then E to extrude. Have it line up. Actually, E and then X. It'll lock it in place. And there we go. That should be good. One thing I will do is, where this is kind of very flat right here, I'm going to drag this up. And perhaps... I'll drag this down a little bit and pull it out a little bit. That should be good. I'll drag that in a little bit. And yeah, that should be good. That's good for me, at least. You know, it's a very basic tutorial, nothing too special. So that is how far it goes as far as modeling. Now, the next step is just a little bit of cleanup, I guess to say. So I like to use smooth shade. So with the blade here, right click, shade smooth, and you'll see that it kind of looks a little bit off. Another thing I do before also doing this is go into edit mode, press A to select everything, Alt N and recalculate outside, because sometimes you'll have like artifacts and shading errors, because sometimes the faces, whenever you make them, they'll be flipped inside out and it causes some issues. So I like to do that before I do a lot of other things, just make sure everything is perfectly fine. Go to auto smooth. Now my preferred number, like the number, like my go-to number I always put it at is 60. Sometimes you may have to go higher, sometimes you may have to go lower. You know, you typically don't have to go lower, but sometimes you might have to go higher, because essentially, as you can see, this looks pretty shitty. But what we'll do is essentially just go into edge select and select the edges that you want sharp. So we obviously want those edges sharp, so we're going to mark sharp. We want the inside here to be sharp, so we're going to mark that sharp. And then this edge right here we want marked sharp. And yeah, that should be it. Another detail that I missed is, I'm not sure if you can see, there's kind of like a bevel across here to where it's not flat essentially. So we're going to add that in real easily by kind of just moving this stuff down like this. And then we want to mark sharp here. And how else should we go about this? Could drag this down a little bit more and drag this one down as well. Could also drag this up a little bit. See, I don't know how it'd look if I clear sharp there. Yeah, not good. No, we'll keep it like that. It's fine for me, at least. I don't mind it. So then with that, we should have everything pretty much done there. Everything looks good to me. Do the same thing over here, shade smooth. See, that right there is what I'm talking about, where you have some artifacts, some shading errors, and it's because the faces are flipped there. So if we tab into edit mode, A to select everything, go to Alt in and recalculate outside, boom, it's fixed. Turn on auto smooth, go up it to 60, and we really don't have to actually add any sharp edges here. It looks just fine for me, so kudos. Same thing here, shade smooth, auto smooth up to 60. We probably don't think we'll need to do anything on this one either. And then we'll do the same thing here, auto smooth. This might be a situation, up it to 60. What is causing that? What if I add another triangle right here? There we go. Yeah, sometimes with triangles, adding more can sometimes fix issues like that. At the end of the day, it's also not a huge issue if that's there, because you probably won't really notice it. Like, sometimes you'll have shading errors here, but if you go to drop down menu, go to matte cap, the lighting kind of changes, and I kind of like the lighting from the matte cap more than the studio. But that's just a personal preference. But yeah, that's the sword right here. It's pretty basic. Next thing to do, which is what I do after I shade smooth and make sure everything looks nice and fine, is UV unwrapping. My favorite bit. So I'm going to tab into edit mode. Easiest way I found to do this is to go down to select and select sharp edges. What this will do is it will select sharp edges. And then you want to mark seams. Now sometimes not all sharp edges will be selected. So we want to select this entire edge. We want to select this entire edge and clear the seam, because we don't want a seam there. We can honestly probably go without a seam here either. See, that should be fine. Keep a seam there. See, when it comes to UV unwrapping, it's a lot of just messing around and seeing how things go. So we select everything, go to UV editing, press U, unwrap. And we'll see how this looks. Okay. Let's try, what if we all together get rid of the seam that's there? So that's just the single outer seam. Unwrap. And yeah, to be honest, we could really, we could just work with that, honestly. That is fine there. Let's go over here. Once again, select sharp edges, mark seams. Let's see, is there anything I should change? This right here. You don't need the seam there. Other than that, that looks good to me. Unwrap. Check it out. It works for me. It works for me. I'm fine with that. Let's go over here. This one's a little bit different. We're not going to do the select sharp edges because with cylinders, it works a little bit different. So with the cylinders, we are simply just going to select like here, here, and here. Mark seams. And then we just want to select a single line pretty much down the middle and mark seam there. Another thing that I'm going to do is go into wireframe mode. Go to, actually, I'm going to just go to layout again. go into wireframe, into edit mode here, go to face select. We're going to delete this face right here because it's not going to be seen. Now with that deleted, go back to solid view and select it all and unwrap. And it should unwrap real nice, just like that. And then select this part, A to select it all. Don't A to select it all, I lied. Select, and then select sharp edges. Make sure you have edge select on. If you have face select on, it'll pretty much select everything. Make sure you're on edge select and then select sharp edges and check it out. Let's see. It looks good to me. So mark seams, A to select it all, unwrap. Let's see. If you select this arrow here, whatever you select here will be over here and vice versa. So what is this right here? What issue are we having here? This seam right here, we can do without it. We could probably do without this seam here. Yeah, okay. I am satisfied. So now we have all of our UVs here. Very messy. Something that I do, so with packing islands, or because UVs like this is an island. Better example, let's go over here. So this all right here is an island. This is an island. This is an island. You know, things that are separate are islands essentially. So the way that I go about packing is I use the thing up here. If you go to UV and then you go to pack islands, it'll automatically pack them. Now, here's a little trick and tip that I've figured out. So let's say the main detail. So your textures, how much detail your texture has is based off of how much UV space you give in an object. So for a sword, a blade is pretty important. You want the details all there. So I will select this. I'll size it up a good bit. Make it decently bigger. Handguard, the front face here, I'll L to select this entire island here. I'll size it up. I want it sized up just a little bit like that. I might even select these and kind of just drag them out a little bit. Just me personally. And some other things we could do, right? We can select the outer edges here. Size them down just a little bit. But this, with this little circle here, we can select it by pressing L and size it down just a little bit. With the handle, should all be good, to be honest. And then with this, we'll select everything and kind of size it down because it's not too important. I guess I should do the same here. Size it down just a little bit. And then select everything again. Tab into edit mode. A to select everything. Go to UV. Pack islands. And then I like to have a 0.03 margin. So then we get something like this. This is horrible, if I'm being honest. So what we're going to do instead is kind of do a little bit more manual work. So we're going to move those out of the way. We're going to rotate the sword to make it fit more while keeping it bigger. Just like that. That should be good. And then we want to move this. Might rotate it as well to kind of make it bigger. Fit it in nicely. Rotate it a little bit more. Might scale down a little bit. Fit that in real nice. So this is pretty unimportant, so I don't give it too much space to work with, but just enough so that it's there. This is a little bit more important, so we'll size that up a good bit. This is the handle here, so we want to keep that decently big. Just have the detail there. This is the metal bit of the pommel, which we also want a good bit of detail on. So we'll keep that decently big. And then let me L to select that. So is all of this okay? So I believe these three should be part of the handguard. So we want these to be decently sized up. So with this long one here, I'll keep it rotated like this. So select it with L, keep it rotated, give it some size. And with these, I might as well just keep these rotated since I've already rotated them. These don't have to be as big. Put them like that. And then with this, the rest of these, this is also part of the handguard, so we'll size that up. We can fit this up here. Put that over here. And then this is the main face of the pommel there, so we want to have that pretty nice and big. And then with this, I can honestly, we'll move this more over here, size it up a little bit. Have this here rotated. Oh, rotate this a little bit and size it up to give it some space there. And same thing with this one, rotate it a little bit and size it up. And not the best UV unwrap, but it should work for texturing, which will happen in the next video because texturing is a whole new ball game. This video is already pretty long. That's a very basic, kind of crappy UV unwrap. It works. The main reason why I'll UV unwrap, so if you haven't noticed yet, we haven't applied the mirror modifiers, and I wait to apply the mirror modifiers up until I've UV'd unwrap, because what it does is it saves you so much more UV space. Because so that's another thing you also have to keep in mind with the mirror. So essentially what happens once we apply the mirror modifier is this 1/4 section of the sword, the UV maps get shared from this quarter to this quarter to this quarter, so it's all very symmetrical, and it saves a lot on UVs. Alternatively, you could have it only, so you could have applied the mirror modifier and then added another mirror modifier to the Z, so that this entire half will just be flipped over to this entire half. But I'm just going to do it in a quarter. It should work just fine for what I'm doing. We'll see once again to the texturing section. But that is really essentially it. That is everything. You have a UV unwrapped basic sword. I've showed you the process of me going through it. It's really just experimenting. It's really simple. I find modeling stuff to be very simple. It's just time commitment and technique, really. But that's essentially it. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Here soon shortly, I will have the video of me texturing this, which I will be texturing it in Substance Painter. So if you don't have Substance Painter, then you have to watch another video on how to texture like in Blender, or if you're going to texture it in Roblox Studio. Either way, I'm going to be texturing it in Substance Painter, so if you want to see that, definitely tune into the next video. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.